being live on this computer?
Well, it says preparing.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, the command is not given to me, so. All
all
right, here's
right,
what we'll do, because we're not going to make everybody
we'll get started.
wait. Why penalize people for being on time? That's always
I
been a
know.
key issue of mine. All right. So you've
So,
seen this slide before. I've kind of modified it a little bit because I've actually had some time to think about this. Now, I don't mean that I'm just throwing this stuff up here, but we're doing 6 hours of live programming a day now, starting Monday. And what's happening is I'm doing so much stuff that now I'm coming back looking at things that I've done recently going, I would say that a bit different. So I'm not changing much, but one of the things that struck me was, and we talked about this, I want to break these out and highlight them, is that if you look at the economy and the mindset that the business owner needs to have, is that one is, I don't have any influence over this. It's being done to me. So therefore, how do I take advantage of what's being done to me? So when the economy is going down, which it's doing right now, what I can do is, go to yoga class. I can strengthen the core of the business during the contraction. And we talked about what those are. So there are 3.5 steps there that are involved with it. We talked about it. And so what's the payoff? Well, the payoff is when the market's back, I don't just get back, I get some sort of multiple out of the return. And today's presentation is where the majority of the multiple comes from. And it just reinforced, as I was doing it today, it just reinforced going, that is not a theme that I've hammered on as hard as I need to, is that of all the ones that we did in the expansion phase, when the economy's going up, what we're covering today, the second move by the business owner is the one that'll give you the greatest return. And I'll get into that. Everybody's seen that before. With this, I don't think I need to do much here. I'll just do a quick review. I changed some of the look. And so let me take it to right there. Okay. So everybody knows that we're looking at the economy as a series of waves. There's a whole school, economic school of this. So this didn't originate in my furtive brain. I read it, and what struck me was, I was like, wow, it's like studying water or air. Because when I was in the marine sciences, I was also a meteorologist. And there is, if your view is fluid dynamics, there is no difference between air and water. Now they have different consistencies, but fundamentally the same principles that will determine how water flows and friction and particle transport and all that is exactly the same mathematics that do work for air and what gets transported there. When I looked at this, I said, man, everything that I've learned in the sciences, I can bring right over here. It's not a one-to-one match, but certainly it gives me the ability to look at it and understand it pretty quickly. And so where we've been is we talked about those cycles. The credit expansion is the one I highlighted because this is kind of the matching piece. We start off with cash flow management up here, which is kind of our half. So if you look at it, we've got 7 things a business owner can do, 3 on contraction, 3 on expansion. And this one is kind of in the middle. We talked about taking the money here and applying it to this, and then getting a multiple improvement in costs so that when we went to organic sales, we went to our customers, we're going to offer them price reductions for what we're selling them, and hope and maybe we can work together and all the things we talked about there. And really, I'm not giving any money away because between the two of them, I found it. And one of the things that I've learned is in a contraction, treat your business like a bank, because if you haven't paid attention to this stuff, there's money laying around. Then we went to re-engineer the offer, and that is basically when things are the worst. Now take a look at the business and the offer and get ready, because what you know is if the darkest of the morning is, so right now the sun's up around 5, so about 3:30, the night's the darkest. Well, at 3:30, pretty soon you're going to see light. That's what's going on here. And then on Monday's show, we talked about this, which was really about just getting back all the business that you had lost, whether you lost the client completely or they truncated their buying, they weren't buying as much from you. Also, is your competitors are not coming out as healthy unless they're really good competitors. And so more than likely, there's market share to take away from them. But the thing here is you're anticipating demand. You're not waiting for people to come to you. You're going to them, but you're minimizing your risk because you're going after customers that you know you can sell to, and you're selling what you make or your service. And so there's not a lot of risk there other than you're going to get ahead of the curve. Well, now, and you can get some multiple on that one, but here is where the money is going to be made. And that is where you can have the opportunity to, one, anticipate demand. You're not waiting for them to come to you. You are going to go to them. And you're going to move in marketing terms, what we call is into adjacent markets. And adjacent markets is either your offer could sell someplace else. You have some core competencies about how you do business that go someplace else. Or there are customers out there who look like your customers. So it's kind of a combination of three things that we're going to talk about. And then I'm going to put this up, and then I'm going to go to the slide that we need. And that is what's left. And this is kind of the, I don't want to say getting greedy, but you're in a bubble up here. The market is going to go down at some point. Everybody's in the market. People are making stupid buying decisions because they're flush with cash. Why aren't you getting your share of it? And that is when you take all the market that you built here and here, and then you say, okay, I've learned something. Let me test something new out. And so, because what you're saying to yourself, based upon what's going on, is there's no more for you to sell to the customers you have. You're selling you're selling your offer to them. You expanded your offer to adjacent markets. So you've added them into your current market or customer base. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, based upon what they're telling me, do something new for them. And this is where the final growth is. But the most money is going to be made in what we're covering today, and that's anticipating demand. And after talking about some of this stuff for the last 2 days, 6 hours a day, I was like, wow, it kind of rocked me because I didn't talk about this in a way that I should have talked about it. So I'm glad that it's Caitlin and Becky on there, that you have joined us because you've heard this before, and I want to go down to where, I don't know, 28, 29, 30, 31. I think we're here. Boom. All right. Start here. So this is, all right. We are anticipating demand, which means they're not coming to us. I'm going to them. And I'm going to take the current offer, the products and services I sell, and I'm going to move into new markets, or think about it as markets that are side by side to you. Even if I'm not thinking geographically necessary, but adjacent markets mean there's more similarities to these new customers you're going after than dissimilarities to your current customer base. All right. So goal number one, this is the greatest opportunity you have for sustaining growth in this market. Your greatest return is going to come now. So if you said, of the three places in the upturn, in the expansion, where am I going to generate the most money? It's right here. And the reason for it is, and you'll see when we go through it, is that the profit margin on this is pretty good. So as your revenue goes up, your margin's going to go up because you're going to take advantage of everything that you're doing, your infrastructure, your products and services. You're not going to make any substantial difference in what you do or how you do it, because that's the risk in a measure, because here is the great opportunity, but this also has a great risk to it we're going to talk about. And then number two is you're going to create a repeatable process, because one of the things that if you want to grow your business, one of the ways of growing the business is moving into adjacent markets. I just read a study last night that was done at Harvard, and it was published by Harvard Business School, and they were talking about organic growth. Because if you look at growing a business, small business, large business, doesn't matter, is there are two types of growth. There's organic and there's acquisition. So acquisition is you go out and buy competitors. Either you buy them to get their capacity, their customer list, employees, etc., or you buy them to put them out of business, one or the other. But on the organic side, which means, no, you're not going to buy anybody, you're going to grow yourself. The number one area where you get the maximum revenue with the best margins is this one right here, moving in adjacent markets. And so the second thing you want to do is you want to create a repeatable process so that you can do this time after time after time. Because it could be that, let's get out of the expansion, That conversation from the economy, let's just talk general business and growing your company, is if this works and the economy's still good, let's do it again, let's do it again, let's do it again, let's do it again until there are no more adjacent markets for you. So this is a winner if you manage the risk. What we're going to talk about is how do you target new markets? Never risk your core markets, which is the essence of this, and then the principle of one. You're going to decide to go after one market, and at most you're going to make one change. If you make 0 changes, that's even better. All right. And by the way, you guys, jump in anytime. I'm not looking at the chat box because of what I've got on the screen. And so just jump in and say, hey, stop and let's talk about that. All right.
I got the chat box.
All right. You got chat box. Okay. So here's your new market checklist. And again, I'm going to say what you're looking for here is I want to minimize the risk because I'm going to get out there and I'm going to be taking some risk by making this maneuver, but I want to minimize it as much as possible. And the risk is losing the accounts you have. So you want to focus, first thing you want to think about is you want to focus on your core competence. If I'm going to move into a new market, how do I decide where and what? And so one of them is, what are you better at than anybody else? And this is what you do better than the competition. So you already know when you compare yourself to other people you're competing with, what do you do better than they do? And this is not about what you necessarily do, your offer, but what do you do better? And I'll give you the example of Walmart. Is that Walmart is a discount retailer that sells clothing, food, etc. That's not really Walmart's core competence. They're the best logistics company in the world because the system they set up is that they've got just-in-time inventory. They know exactly when a customer buys something, it gets pulled, it gets automatically ordered. They know exactly where everything is at. So for Walmart, when they're making a decision about expanding in adjacent markets, it's not about can they sell more crap. It's about whether or not their core competence of logistics will apply over there. In fact, they're so good at it. When UPS was overhauling their systems about 20 years ago, all the UPS executives flew to Bentonville, Arkansas to talk to the Walton organization. Now, here's a distribution company talking to a retailer, but the deal is that Walmart just happens to look like they're a retailer, they're a logistics company. So here is, what is it that you do better than anybody else? And it could be the thing you sell, or it could be the process of how you work. That's the core competence you want to take advantage of, okay? So now, having said that, who looks like your current customer, who's buying your offer or something similar? So I'm going to look in adjacent markets and say, okay, I've got 3 or 4 customers. They are great customers. Why? Because one, they have the financial wherewithal to pay me what I charge. The margins on that is very good because my systems or processes or how I do business doesn't require me to do a lot of changes. The more that you can make people fit into what you currently do, one, they're going to be happier with you because there's going to be less defects, less mistakes. Number 2, you're going to have a better margin. Okay. Here's another thing to ask yourself: which potential markets does your core competence provide you the opportunity in 1 or 2? The deal here is you never want to go someplace else where you don't have the opportunity to be better than the top players. Now, on a corporate end, you could say, well, who's got the most market share in X? We're small business owners. So this is really more of, what do you know you do better than any of the people that you compete with? All right. Now, I'll tell you what I'm good at. I'm a great synthesizer of information. I can consume a lot of data in a day and put it back together in a certain way, and then generalize and then pull together different things that I've been working on to see the pattern, how it fits, and then either update a piece of material that I'm using, a product, or build something brand new. And so for me, if I'm moving in adjacent markets, what is it? It has nothing to do with the products I sell. It's my ability to produce a product. That's really what I believe my core competence is. Donna, you want to add anything or subtract?
No, I can. The spin on it that it's not necessarily what you're selling, but that your number one could be who you are and how you bring it to the table. So I think that's a missing piece to a lot of how people business owners think.
That's right. And if you're a small business owner and let's say you're a solopreneur, that is the answer because you probably don't have any real systems set up. You don't have any infrastructure. You're not outsourcing anything. I mean, occasionally you may get help from somebody, but it's basically you. So what you're saying to yourself, is it what I do or is how I do it? My view of myself is my competitive advantage. It's not what I do, it's how I do it. And so if I'm looking to move in adjacent markets, I'm going, where else can I do this? So if I was selling a service, I would look to somebody else who's looking to develop intellectual property products from their experience in the business and saying, how do I turn what we know into a product? I'd raise my hand on that because I don't need to know anything about what they're doing. What I can do though is once I start looking at the data, I can see the patterns and how it fits together. And if I understand the client in terms of how the client is going to use it or consume it, then I can put it together and it's going to be pretty good. At least it has been in the past pretty good in terms of when they consume it.
Well,
Okay?
and the Walmart example real quick, just to go back to that, the fact that most of us would look at Walmart thinking that they're a retail company and that that's their core competency when in fact they're not, they're a logistics company. And without knowing, if they didn't know that core strength, then they probably wouldn't be as much of a powerhouse.
Well, you think about it as Amazon ought to be quaking in their boots because Walmart's going online. And if there's anybody who can take Amazon on the online world, it's Walmart. Why? All Walmart's got to do is get the online presence because the shipping system, everything you need to be successful online retailer, Walmart does. They already do it. All they need is an online presence. So, if I'm Amazon, I'm not worried about Sears. I'm not worried about Wards. I'm not worried about, pick a company. They're not going to come in. They're not going to come into the online world and compete with me because they don't have the core competence. They think it's about building sexy websites or getting enough people on there. No, they don't understand is that Amazon is vertically integrated and it's a great logistics company. It just happens to be online and sell stuff, but it's a logistics company. Well, Walmart is the one company out there that could take on Amazon and beat them because not only do they do it very well, and maybe they do it better than Amazon, they also got tremendously deep pockets. So they can buy market share and they can hang around. Now
And
to me, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say one other example that came to mind is when we had Chris Robinson on our sales show, and he had talked about how he bought a house recently, living in Missouri, bought a house down in Florida just within the last couple of weeks during quarantine. And what he thought when he reached out, he thought he was hiring a realtor, but really the core competency of that individual was much greater than that because he was a resource and a connector to all of, he thought ahead, like what else could this client need besides, and so he differentiated himself in that way to be this most invaluable resource, because once the house is bought, you move on, but now he's going to continue to go back to this resource, the realtor, because he positioned himself in that way.
Right. So I think the bottom line here is if you're moving in adjacent markets is it may be what you do and it may be how you do it. You've just got to be open to explore all of those, and it could be some combination. But the bottom line is if you want to generate a lot more revenue with really decent margins, this is the place where you're going to make the most bucks. This is where most companies in organic growth do the best. They do their best of all the things that activities they engage in to grow the company. Here's where it's at. All right. Now, next one is never risk your core market. So here's my low risk checklist, and then I'll talk about how to do this. So here's the question you want to ask. I got a more. Oh, it popped up and then it popped down. Who hit me with the more? Okay. All right. Low risk checklist. So here are some things to consider. Does expansion require an addition of resources or better utilization of current resources? All right. So do I have to, if I'm business owner, it's just me, and I'm going to move into markets I'm not into, it is going to require some addition. Does that mean that I'm going to have to be more efficient in my use of time and it's going to require me? So it's a better utilization of what I do. Or am I going to have to bring somebody in? And of course, you know where I'm going with this is that you want the answer to this to be no. And if it's not no, it's low. So when you're evaluating opportunities, the ones that are closer to no or low are the ones that are going to be deemed better risk for you. Number two, this is a good one. Since we're taking the perspective of we're doing this as part of an expansion in the economy, did you replace the lost revenue from the last contraction? In other words, when you went out there, when nobody else was doing it, and you went out and aggressively got your business back and went after your competitor's business, did you get that lost revenue back? Because those are the resources that you're going to be using to go here with. And so do you have anything available? And again, one of the things I learned many years ago is that as a small business owner, I got to treat the business as a bank. Is there money in here that I don't see because I'm not paying attention that I can go get? So how do I fund this move in adjacent market? I funded from the last step when I got my market share back, because I know this is next. I'm not going to spend all that money. What I'm going to do is put some of that aside so that I can use that to get my multiple. So I'll just pick an arbitrary number. I put $10,000 aside. I'm going to move in adjacent markets. I'm going to spend $10,000 in marketing. I'm expecting that's going to give me a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 return. Will this remove resources from marketing, making, delivering, selling, servicing current accounts? Okay. And so these are the questions I want to ask myself and make sure that that is in fact, if it is true, I need to know what it is and then take a look at that risk and go, is that worth it? All right. So here's my checklist on this one. Principle of one. We're going to go into one market. So we got to decide what market. And at most, we're going to make one change in how we do business, at most. And if the fewer variables involved with this, the better, because the other side of it is, if this works this time, I want to build a repeatable process. I want to be able to do this time after time after time. And it's like it, and if I can do that, it's like printing money. One of the companies that's the master of this is Nike. And Nike's been doing this for years in that they made shoes. That's all they did. Well, then what market they move into? I mean, they made sporting shoes. They specifically went after the NBA, and they specifically went after Michael Jordan. And so they blew the business out by doing that. And then suddenly, if you're an NBA fan, you got to be wearing the only thing you could be wearing on your shoes are swooshes. And especially if you're a Michael Jordan fan, the only thing you could have on there. In fact, what was the symbol there for a while in the NBA? It was Michael going to the basket, kind of the icon of it. Now, what happened is they lost this principle because then they tried to go in and move into golf. And there's nothing wrong with making golf shoes and golf apparel. But then they tried to make golf clubs. Well, guess what? They don't know squat about making golf clubs. And that failed. Why? Because they went and did something they didn't know how to do. So I'm going to review each opportunity, risk to current accounts, and I'm going to rank order them based upon impact on current business. I'm going to review each opportunity to say, can I excel by just showing up and people seeing what I do? Can I excel? Am I better than the people I'm going to be taking on? All right. Number three is that I'm going to take a look at what changes are then required in the business. What else am I going to be required to do to make this happen? And again, if you can't get in the top one or two, don't do it. Now, again, I'm a small business owner. I don't know what's going on with all those other people. But what you do know is you're competing against people right now. So if you were to sample your current customers, which might be a great move if you haven't done that, the question is, what do I do better than anybody else that you work with? And listen to what they got to say. That is what you're looking to move into the market, because if you can't immediately identify yourself as better than everybody else, then maybe you don't want to go there, because as a small business owner or as a solopreneur, I don't have the budget to get into extensive marketing. So I've got to make people aware of what I do, and I got to get them trying it, and I've got to do that inexpensively, because the assumption is if they try it, they're going to leave whatever they're doing, or they're going to make the purchase pretty quickly. And if it's not that, if you said, well, no, that's not going to happen the first time they touch it, it's going to take a while, Okay, then we need to think about whether that's a good one. Okay. Uh, oh, all right. Hand raised. Okay. Becky had to depart. Okay, sorry. I, but Becky's not here, but this will be available to you through Donna. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to review all the opportunities for potential financial impact, which has the greatest multiple, and rank it by return on investment.
Becky's here. We lost Katie.
Oh, Katie, I'm sorry. Well, I was reading it too fast.
I got the chat, sir.
Well, it popped up on my screen, and I was like, well, maybe I need to deal with this. All right, let me go back to this one here. So here's what I'm saying. You get out a sheet of paper. You want to build a spreadsheet. That's cool. I like spreadsheets on this, but you know what we're doing right now. If you were a major corporation, we'd be doing a spreadsheet. So I'm going to say, okay, is this a risk to any of my accounts? That's one category. And then I'm going to look at all of the potential new markets I can move into, and I'm going to rank order them. Number one is no risk or the lowest risk, all the way down to the bottom. You know, if I'm looking at 5 markets, the one that has the biggest risk to current accounts is a 5. Then I'm going to do the second one, and I'm going to say, okay, of these, which one do I have the greatest opportunity to immediately look better than the people I'm trying to displace in those accounts? Or they haven't made those purchases yet. They're thinking about it, and when they find out, they find mine, they're going to go, oh yeah, okay, it's done. And again, rank order those. One goes to the best, you know, and just put them in order until you get to the bottom. The third one is to look at it from the issue of required changes. Can I just do this without doing anything else, or do I have to change change my processes and do the same thing? Number one is no change, you know, so that would be the top one, or minimal change. And then the last one is, what's the opportunity for growth in this particular sector? And it could be, I'm looking at price, in that, well, if I move in this sector, I can increase my price. It could be margin, in that um, I can make a better margin with these customers. It could be volume. Well, there's more customers over there, so I could bring in more business. It's up to you to kind of put that together, but I'm going to rank order this by return on investment. If I put $10,000 of marketing into a Facebook campaign, of these 5 choices, which one is, I believe, is going to give me the greatest multiple and make that number one? And then all you do is just kind of average them out to say, here are the top 1 or 2 opportunities there that I have the highest opportunity for return with the lowest amount of risk. And that is the answer you're looking for. I want to mix those 2 together. All right, so that now takes me down to this, and I'll summarize. Once you've done that, then it's what we did in the last session. I want to aggressively enter that market. I want to just jump in there, and it's on, I think on slide 27, we've got all that. And part of that is I want to make sure I understand these new customers I'm selling to. I'm assuming they're much like my customers, but I still want to somewhat check that out, and you can with how you market it. And, you know, basically, without drilling down on the marketing aspect, how would I do that? I would basically do something where I would give either customers who responded to my marketing campaign a choice of what's most important to them, and that would give me the ability to say, this is where they're at. I would do a survey, or I would do 2 or 3 different campaigns on an issue and see which one gets the greatest traction. But I would check that out. And the same thing, I would do the same thing with the competitors, is there any difference with this group of people that from the people I'm competing with right now? Number 2 is I would run 3 marketing campaigns. And if you don't remember those from Monday, here they are. One is a loyalty campaign. Now, you're going into new markets. You're saying, well, loyalty campaign, huh? You know, nobody's bought from me. But see, I do have customers and I do have testimonials. So maybe my good customers don't see this ad at all. I don't care, because who is going to see this ad? The people I'm trying to sell to. And so what I want them to go, my God, I wish, why am I not a customer of these people? I mean, I would love to have this relationship. One of the ones that I'm really impressed with right now is we just recently bought into a wine club. I'm not big on wine clubs because I'd rather taste the wine and then buy my own. Well, this thing called Naked Wine. Well, I'll tell you what, they got a gig going on, and I'd recommend it if anybody on here, you check out Naked Wines and check out what they're doing. They have got it down. And the wines, we just got a shipment in. The wines are good. I'm not like going crazy over the wines, but so far we've had a couple bottles. They're great, but it's not the wine. It's the business model that they're selling. And so I'm going, wow, we ought to be, when I was looking at their marketing collateral before we bought, I was like, man, I would love to be a customer of these people. And so that's what happened. So one campaign is a campaign to thank people who have bought from you and talk about what you've done together and blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't matter whether any of your existing customers see it. Nobody else knows that. But the people you're going after going, wow, why am I not a customer? Why haven't I heard of these people before? Second campaign you're going to be running, and you want to talk about simultaneous or back to back. It all depends upon who you got and how much money you're going to spend. And that's the one where you're introducing your offer, and what you're doing is you're educating them to buy from you. And that's what Naked Wine was doing was with me, is that they were not talking about their loyalty as much in the initial campaign. They were talking about why I would want to be a member of a wine club when I don't particularly like wine clubs. And they know who they're selling to because most of the people they're selling to don't like wine clubs. And so that was kind of an interesting dynamic. The third campaign you're going to run is a suppression campaign. And the suppression campaign is you're going to educate the customer on why the alternatives to you are not the best move. Now, you're not going to mention anybody by name. You're not going to talk negatively about anything they do. What you're going to do is you're going to talk about the superiority of your approach and why it works better than some of the others. And what you want to do as part of that is put the argument that your competitors would make on a sales call. And so what you're doing is you're giving the customer inoculation. You're giving them the virus so that when the competition shows up, they're already somewhat immune to the sales pitch. And those are the three campaigns you want to run. I think we talked about it on Monday. I mean, you can basically run each one of these during the week, $50 a piece. You can get at $50. You can get between 3,000 and 5,000 people those are the impressions you'll get. And you run this for a month, and maybe every week you cycle, you got a new loyalty letter, you got a new buy from me letter, you got a new suppression letter. I guarantee you is that would be $600 for the month. We can afford it. You could take your COVID check, the $1,200 you're getting, and invest that into a month of marketing at Facebook and get a multiple off the $1,200. Okay.
Bill, just so you know, we're at 10:39 on time. I know that
all right.
you've
Well,
got a lot of talking to do today.
Yeah. Well, I'm there. And then the last part of it is personally supervise the marketing sales funnel. If you're going to spend all this time and money on it, and obviously, if you're alone, you are going to supervise this. But if you're working in an organization that somebody else is handling this, and you've been kind of hands off, stop. You got too much on the table here. You're going to make this a personal issue with you for a bit. All right. So the next webinar, we've got one left, and that's next Monday. And this one is about making sure that whatever is left to get, you get. Okay. So we're at the top of the market. We're going after current markets, which means everything you did in step one, your old customers plus your competitors, plus these new customers you brought in. And then now, instead of anticipating demand, you're talking to them and saying, gee, what could I do for you? And so you take advantage of the fact that the market's in a bubble. Everybody's crazy. They're spending money and going, I want to make sure I get mine. And so the way to look at it is it's late summer, early fall, and you're going, it's time to start gathering the nuts for fall. All right, that's it. You all know how to schedule and get on there, but I appreciate you being here, spending the time. And I'll send this to Donna here shortly. And if you can, let me just put a plug in for this if you're on.
If you're going to pull up IBGR, I just put the link in the.
All right, I'm just going to pull up the page.
Sure.
This is what we're doing right now, and this is what we're testing. So this is our page, ibgr.network. We're doing 6 hours of live broadcasting. And let me turn off the listen live. And so this is our website, and there's a lot of stuff. If you go here into tools and you go into show notes, in 3 days, we have put a book up here. So you can see just the episodes that we're doing and the information. And so what happened to me before I did your presentation today, I organized my brain, is I've been talking about what we talked about just now. I've been talking about that for 12 hours the last 2 days in some form or fashion. And I just suddenly went, wow, it's something I didn't emphasize. So I appreciate you being on. I know we're probably at 42, 43, and I'm on in an hour. If you can join me, please join me.
Awesome.
All right,
And
Donna,
again,
you got to take
yeah.
over.
Okay, so I was just going to say, if you have any questions from today, because I know Bill has to prepare to get into the next phase of 6 hours of live broadcasting, you can always reach out to me at donnak@ibgr.network, and I will definitely get the questions answered. Thank you so much for joining us today, Becky. It's so great to see your smiling face. I love that beautiful picture of yours. And we'll be back again. Last one is on Monday. Please share these webinars with anyone that you know that could benefit from them. We have them all recorded except number 4, I think, or 5.
Yeah,
That's still in processing purgatory.
Yeah, and that's not us, that's Zoom.
So we're going to try to get that on there. But go out and be prosperous, and we'll see you again on Monday.
Yeah, and the last piece of news I'll leave to you is more than likely we're going to be open for business next week. It'll start.
Awesome.
That's my last. Ciao.
Yay.
Auf Wiedersehen bis heute. No, it's bis heute. Auf Wiedersehen, Montag. See you on Monday.
Bye, guys.